Regardless of what's going on with the housing and rental markets, life goes on. Whether people are starting their careers, they're getting married, having children. Now imagine you're in a situation, you're thinking about buying a house. People call you a big giant dummy because you're buying an overpriced piece of property right now and you're gonna get yourself underwater. But then you consider renting and then you're told that is the dumbest thing you can do. You're throwing your money away, you're paying someone else's mortgage. Just stop it. What do? You want to get out of your parents' house, you want to get the ball rolling in your life, but you can't. In this video, we're going to explore how it looks like to rent and buy in this housing environment, and also give you guys a bunch of plug and play game plans that you can steal, modify, and use for your lives. And if anyone else keeps calling you a dummy, just give them my number and I'll take care of them, don't worry. First, let's talk about renting. The idea of renting is a bad idea is a very common sentiment, especially in cultures that really value home ownership. Some common gripes people have is it doesn't build equity, you have less control and stability over your life, it can be costlier in the long run, and more importantly, it lacks certain tax benefits associated with home ownership. And of course, the worst one being you'll be a disappointment in your family, and every time you go to the party, they're gonna be like, hey, your brother or your cousin just bought a house, what's taking you so long? But in reality, there's a lot of benefits to renting. There's really a low startup cost, so you don't need your entire down payment, closing costs, and additional housing fund to buy a house. You can just simply have like first month's deposit, security deposit. So usually a good common rule of thumb is whatever the month's rent is, usually they add up the deposits to add about 2 times that amount. So if you're looking for a place that's $2,000 a month, if you have about $4K saved up, that should be enough to get you started. You have a lot more financial flexibility. So in theory, you don't have to be saving up for maintenance or repairs. Your AC breaks, your roof breaks, you don't have to go pay 5 or 10K. You just call your landlord, they come and take care of it. This frees up your money so you can really tackle your home ownership or savings goals. Maybe you have a lot of debt, you can start focusing on tackling that. You want to save up for a housing fund or an emergency fund, you can do that. You don't have to have extra funds ready and available for any potential issues that might pop up where you live. And last but not least, you have a lot of flexibility. Say you're living in your neighborhood and your neighbor decides to start producing and selling meth. If you buy a house, you're stuck there, right? Unless you turn it into a rental or you sell it and you take a loss, you're going to be put in that position. And the good thing about a rental is top 6 to 12 months, you're going to just finish out your lease and you're out. But a lot of times you could probably work with the landlord to get you to another place and not break your lease. But jokes aside, if your career isn't quite settled yet, you're still kind of figuring things out, maybe there's a promotion coming up very soon, you have the ability to be flexible where you live and move if you need to. Now let's talk about the rental environment right now. If you're going to start looking for a rental soon, you may actually see some good news. There's been increase of rental listings nationwide, and this is creating an oversaturation of listings and bringing the prices down. This is caused for a few reasons. One, there's been a lot of Airbnbs that have to pivot to a long-term rentals because there's been a lot more restrictions popping up. And two, there's been a lot of corporate investors that really have oversaturated the market. They purchased so many houses at a rapid rate and probably are not having trouble renting them out because there's less people moving out right now. A lot of places are calling their employees to come back to work in their office and there's just less movement going on. So they probably over anticipated the demand for rental listings. So like I said, you may notice listings on the market longer and you might be able to actually find some sweet Airbnb listings that are there for a longer term where are fully furnished and you can get yourself a place and not have to go get furniture. Now let's talk about buying. Homeownership has been a no-brainer for so long. It's been quite a shock to so many people's systems to be told that maybe it's not the best time for them to buy a home. For the past decade, homes have reliably gone up in the value about 3 to 7% a year. But those who were owning a home during 2020 to 2022-ish, they were rewarded greatly with a 10 to 20% annual increase. Unfortunately, in my opinion, the good times are over. You may not realize significant financial gains simply by owning home. Equity will have to be earned with wise renovations, risky purchases in up-and-coming areas, or just a very slow grind. There is a very real possibility that you will buy a home and have it drop in value in the next few years. If you're someone who's going to be checking their value every month to see if they're going up or down, maybe home ownership might not be for you. Now, the current home buying environment is kind of interesting because for the time being, you actually might still find it to be very competitive. There's still a lot of people out there battling to get themselves into a home, and that's going to provide you some resistance from maybe grabbing a good deal. But if you're patient, you can find a house that's going to be willing to go down on the price. Rates are high right now, so this is making a lot of people back out of the market. So there is a possibility you may see prices start to decline due to the decrease of buyers. But honestly, you probably won't be able to see this until like the beginning of the year, because right now, usually the end of the year, like holiday time, everyone expects prices and everything to slow down. So there's nothing shocking happening right now. Okay, so now that we have a better understanding of the pros and cons of renting versus buying, let's talk about what situation you should strive for. Now, it is in my opinion that everybody who, as long as you live in this country, should strive for home ownership, specifically long-term home ownership. Over the past decade, a lot of people, including myself, got ourselves in the habit of let's buy something that temporarily fits our goals. And when those goals change 3 to 4 years from now, let's just sell it and make a ton of money. Once again, home prices have gone up reliably 5 to 8%, and especially during the COVID time, excluding the COVID time rather. So you could buy a nice piece of property, sell it 3 or 4 years later, make a lot of money, build like enough to have a cushion on the side, and get your down payment from it. It is in my opinion that those golden days are now done. I feel that there's going to be a settling over the next 3 to 5 years. And once the dust is settled and the market has hit a certain point, then we're going to get back to that slow increase. Like I said earlier, we're going to have to earn that equity 1 to 2% unless you do something drastic to your house or something drastic happens to the neighborhood. So it is, in my opinion, everyone should strive for long-term home ownership, meaning you're going to have a house and it's going to fulfill your needs for about a decade and you're going to live in there for a while. Maybe it's more than a decade. Maybe it's a house that you pass on to your family. But I think this whole fast home ownership trend is going to unfortunately start slowing down. So if this is the goal, then really, and you're evaluating right now whether you should rent or you should buy, there's 3 main factors you need to really internally look at to see how strong you are. Now, the 3 factors are: what is your financial situation? What is your local market education? And what is your current risk tolerance? Now, in a perfect world, you have all 3 of these, but let's go over each one and figure out what the perfect scenario for each one would be. Financial situation means your credit score is healthy, at least 700 plus, but technically you could buy something 600 to 700. Your emergency fund is, for lack of a better word, funded. You have a general fund of like a savings fund started. Like it doesn't have to necessarily be done. In my opinion, a general fund is always just being worked on and always saving. And this is the fund we're going to use for any potential like home renovations or anything like that. You have your housing fund funded, meaning you're saving your down payment and your closing costs are saved. Whatever the current average monthly payment or the monthly payment is for the house that you're needing, that monthly payment should equal 25 to 30% of your net income. So that way you're still in control of your finances. Your credit balances are also under control, meaning you know, maybe you have credit balances, but they're in control under 25 or 50%. And if you have these items, you're technically in a good financial position. The second one is local market education. So this means you have a clear understanding of current housing value trends. Now, I'm not talking about like national market trends. Those are fun to watch and those are sensational for sure. But I'm talking about local market data, like certain zip code you're looking in, the certain neighborhood you're looking in. Are they going up in value or are they going down in value? You have a clear understanding of what's going on there. Clear understanding of the current inventory pending under contract and sales. So you know, is there more sales happening that they're current active houses in this specific neighborhood? And you get a better sense of, are there people, is it more of a buyer's market or more of a seller's market? How much do the houses that you like rent for versus what is that monthly payment for a house like that? And this will help you really determine, hey, is it more of a, like, is it better to buy? If I were like thinking about my monthly budget, if I rent, is this house going to be $2,000? And if I buy, is it $3,000? So is it like favoring more towards renting? Like maybe you're not in a good financial position yet and you kind of determine, well, probably better to rent because I can save more money. Or if you buy right now, is it going to really stretch your budget? And for the third category, which is our risk tolerance, you're going to do a self-assessment and reflect on your comfort level with uncertainty. Can you handle the idea that your property's value might fluctuate? Or are you looking for something that's more surefire? Future expenses. Are there large expenses on the horizon? Things like educational costs, medical needs, potential job changes that might impact your ability to manage housing related expenses. And last, personal life stages and goals. Consider where you are in life. For instance, maybe you're planning significant life changes like marriage or starting a family. These can influence both your risk tolerance and your housing needs. So based on this triangle of success, we'll call it Javier Vidana's triangle of success, totally original idea, by the way, you're going to find yourself probably having more strength in two of them. Now, if you think you're the master of all three, congratulations. You're one of the very few, but most people are finding themselves in three situations, which is you're stronger with two of those and one of them is your weaker point. So let's go over each scenario and see which one finds yourself in and what I recommend if you are in the situation. First, let's talk about people that have a strong financial situation, a good local market education, but a very low risk tolerance. Let's call these guys cautious Chads. I don't know. Let's just say you're cautious. If you're cautious, you're educated in all aspects of your financial journey, and you take pride in the fact that you live life within a budget that gives you the ability to live worry-free. You are also very keen on the numbers and you have a clear understanding of what your local market trends are. However, you just don't feel comfortable with the idea of buying something that doesn't have a certainty of rising or even decreasing. You would even appreciate if it was a certainty that they're going down in value, right? That would be more predictable and that would at least you'd understand the risks associated with it. But the fact that it can go up or down just doesn't fit well with your personality. So what do you do if you're cautious? Well, here's what I recommend you do. First things first, you need to continue to build your wealth and find alternative ways to invest your money. Don't just let it sit in the bank, continue to save. And once you save to a certain point, then just find other ways to invest your money. Now, buying a house isn't the best investment, sure, but the way your brain works is you're looking at it like an investment. So, just have that money work somewhere else for you. Number two is renting somewhere where your monthly payment is still below your means. Like make sure you go find a place to live. Like don't just stop your life's goals just because you're very nervous. Go find a place to rent, but still rent within your means. If you can rent something even below your means, even better, because then you can continue to save a lot more. Because my third piece of advice is keep an eye on the market. And eventually things are going to seem more predictable. And when that average monthly payment is more affordable to most people again, or the monthly payment is under your means, so low under your means that you like the worry of you losing value is completely gone, then make your move. I imagine that's like 10 or 15% or something complete crazy, or maybe it's just buying cash. I know a lot of people right now that are just buying cash because they don't want to worry about the ups and downs or anything like that. Now, every one of these will have a word of caution, and my word of caution for our cautious folks, you'll never feel like it's the right time to buy, okay? There will be a time where you simply have to take a leap of faith. And sometimes that comes with someone helping you, like your spouse or someone, or sometimes you just have to look inwardly and say, okay, I can't control what's going to happen, but everything else makes sense. I'm just going to take that leap of faith. There's no guarantee of ups or downs, even in certain markets. Next, let's talk about someone who is finding themselves in a very solid financial situation, and maybe they are pretty risk tolerant, but they don't have a lot of local market education. I would say this is probably more in the minority, but there are people out there like this. And for this group, I call my optimist, or you're optimistic. This group might find themselves being compulsive savers. Maybe something happened earlier in their life that taught them to save. Maybe it was their great upbringing, or maybe they're just very fortunate. They find themselves in a situation with excellent income. This allowed them to have a great financial position and really flourish. And that has really given them the boost of confidence they need, and they have a greater risk tolerance. They have so much money in the bank that they think they're invincible. Now, here's the advice I have for you guys. Your lack of local market analysis is concerning. You need to get educated on what's going on in your area, okay? You may be buying a home in an area that's been being hit very hard, and yeah, it wouldn't affect you since you technically could afford your payment, but if you had known this, you could have waited a few months. You could have gotten yourself a much better deal. Number two is, depending on the market conditions, renting might be a solid option. If you feel like you can't wait that long, you might even do a short-term rental, like 6 months or 3 months or something. I don't know. As long as you're aware of what's going on, you can make a much better decision and not just rush into the process. Now, with this group of people, they're going to do whatever they want, regardless of what this video says or anything. So please know, what I've learned is when things are great, they're great, but things eventually start slowing down. So it probably will help to just be a little bit more extra prepared. Whatever numbers you have for your savings, for funding or savings, just maybe increase them slightly. Maybe just prepare more than you think you need, because odds are you probably are still expecting things to be really good and your saving goals are not as aggressive as they need to be. So it's great to be optimistic, but kind of tone it down. Last but not least, we have our people that are really strong in local market education and very strong risk tolerance, but they might not find themselves in a great financial situation. Now for this group, you love to learn. You can name all your favorite financial real estate educators and share each one of their opinions on real estate. You probably already have a real estate agent or lender on speed dial, and you know the ins and outs of the current local market. You love the idea of calling a place your own, and you might even qualify for a house that has your eye already. You frequently travel to open houses, you know exactly what you want. However, even though you have some money saved on the side, you haven't really taken the time to build up your savings, your emergency fund. Maybe you don't even have an idea of what your budget looks like or what monthly payments work for your budget. So in this group, you're the carefree group. You're very carefree. Here's some advice for you. Maybe you could have gone away with this mindset in the past decade, but you owe it to your future self to not put yourself in a potentially dangerous financial situation. Sit down, give yourself a financial audit, and get your finances in order. My second piece of advice is work on building your emergency fund first, then start a general fund, and then start saving for your housing funds. It's okay to rent while you're figuring this out or growing this, but make sure those are created first. A word of advice. Lenders and realtors are salespeople. If you go chat with them, they're creative and they're good at their job. They're probably going to find a way to qualify you for a house. Remember, qualifying doesn't mean affording. Have the self-discipline to not talk to anyone until you have met your personal goals. So wherever you are, I wish you the absolute best on your home goals. If any of these concepts weren't clear, I would recommend you rewatch the video or maybe ask any questions in the comment section to see if anyone in this great community can help you, or I might check it out and answer as well. You may find there's alternative goals or scenarios that I didn't mention, so I'm curious to see if anyone can think of anything. Lastly, if you can send this to someone who might benefit from this info, please do, as this really helps the channel grow. Thank you guys, and here's the next video that YouTube thinks you should check out. So see you on the next one.